I want to share something with you that most people will never hear from their doctor. Not because it isn't important, but because nobody thinks to say it out loud until something goes wrong. What if the most dangerous thing you do each day happens before you've even gotten out of bed? Not a cigarette, not a heavy meal, not skipping the gym. Something far more ordinary. Something so automatic, so woven into your daily routine that you'd never in a million years think to question it. And the truly unsettling part? Most people believe it's completely harmless. Some even think it's helping them. My name is Dr. Marcus Lee. I've spent over 2 decades as a practicing cardiologist, and I've sat across from more patients than I can count. Men and women who exercised regularly, watched what they ate, took their medications, did everything right, and still found themselves facing a cardiac event that changed their lives forever. And when we go back through their history, when we look at their routines and their habits and their stress patterns, there was something that came up again and again that nobody had ever warned them about. A small, invisible, daily habit happening in the first moments of every single morning. So today, I want to walk you through exactly what's happening inside your body the moment you wake up, why that window is so critically important to your heart, what most people are unknowingly doing to make it worse, and most importantly, what you could do differently starting tomorrow. Let's begin with the biology, because once you understand what your body is actually doing when you open your eyes each morning, everything else I'm going to tell you will make complete and total sense. Most of us imagine waking up as a gentle process. You drift out of sleep, your eyes open, you stretch a little, and gradually your body comes online like a computer booting up slowly. But that image is completely wrong. What's actually happening inside your body during those first few moments of waking is anything but gentle. The instant your brain registers that sleep is ending, it triggers a cascade of physiological responses that are intense, rapid, and here's the part most people don't realize, potentially dangerous if the conditions aren't right. Your cortisol levels, already beginning their natural morning rise during the final hour of sleep, spike sharply the moment full wakefulness begins. Your sympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for the fight-or-flight response, activates with force. Your heart rate climbs. Your blood pressure surges. Your blood becomes measurably thicker and more prone to clotting because of natural overnight concentration from hours without fluid. Your blood vessels contract slightly in response to the sudden shift in neurological activity. This isn't abnormal. This is your body's ancient survival programming preparing you to face the demands of a new day. It's been doing this every morning for your entire life. But here is the piece of information that I believe everyone deserves to know. This exact window, roughly the first hour after waking, is statistically the most dangerous time of day for your cardiovascular system. Research has documented this clearly and repeatedly. Heart attacks are more likely to occur in the early morning hours than at any other time. Not because mornings are uniquely evil, but because the cardiovascular system is under more strain during that natural transition than at almost any other point in the day. Now here is where the habit comes in. Here is the thing people do in those first 30 seconds, those first 60 seconds, that takes a system that is already under significant physiological pressure and pushes it even further. Think about your typical morning. Your alarm goes off. Maybe it goes off multiple times because you hit snooze 2 or 3 times. Eventually you reach over, you grab your phone, and before your feet have even touched the floor, before your body has had even a single moment to regulate itself, you are scrolling. News headlines, emails, text messages, social media, a notification from a group chat that blew up overnight. Maybe a news story that makes your stomach tighten. Maybe a work email that triggers a flash of anxiety. Maybe a social post that sparks a comparison or a reaction you didn't choose to have. Within seconds, your brain is flooded with information, stimulation, and in most cases, some degree of stress. And your cortisol, which was already elevated from the waking process, spikes again. Your adrenaline joins it. The 2 most powerful stress hormones in your body are now surging simultaneously through your cardiovascular system during the exact window when that system is at its most vulnerable. What does that actually mean for your heart? Let me be specific, because the mechanisms here are important. When psychological stress is added to an already elevated physiological state, your blood vessels constrict further. This is called vasoconstriction, and it drives blood pressure higher than the natural morning rise alone would cause. The inflammation markers in your cardiovascular system increase. Platelet activity rises, meaning your blood becomes more likely to form clots. And for the millions of people who have arterial plaque they haven't been diagnosed with yet, plaque that could be sitting silently in their coronary arteries right now, this combination of elevated pressure, constriction, and increased clotting risk creates precisely the environment in which that plaque is most likely to rupture. A ruptured plaque in a coronary artery. That is a heart attack. That is how it happens. I want to be careful here because I'm not telling you that checking your phone is going to give you a heart attack tomorrow morning. What I'm telling you is that when you consistently and repeatedly layer artificial psychological stress on top of the natural cardiovascular strain of waking up day after day, week after week, month after month, you're asking your heart to absorb a burden it was never designed to carry at that moment. And over time, that consistent burden contributes to elevated blood pressure, chronic inflammation, accelerated arterial damage, and meaningfully increased long-term cardiovascular risk. This is not a theory. This is the physiology. And it is the reason I changed the way I talk to my patients about their mornings. Now, let's talk about what you can actually do, because a warning without a solution helps nobody, and I want you to walk away from this with tools you can use starting tomorrow. The single most important shift I ask my patients to make is this. Give your body 2 to 3 minutes of calm before you give it anything else. That's it. Before the phone, before the news, before the coffee, before the conversation. 2 to 3 minutes where your cardiovascular system is allowed to complete its morning transition without being ambushed by external stimulation. During those minutes, breathe intentionally. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold briefly. Then exhale through your mouth for a count of 6 or 7. Do this 3 or 4 times. This pattern of breathing, slightly longer exhale than inhale, is one of the most well-documented methods we have for activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system responsible for calming the body and countering the fight-or-flight response. Studies on heart rate variability have shown that even a few minutes of this kind of breathing in the morning produces measurable reductions in cardiovascular strain that persist throughout the rest of the day. This is something I recommend to every single one of my cardiac patients, and the ones who do it consistently tell me it changes how their entire day feels from the inside. The second thing I want you to do each morning is drink water before anything else. I know this sounds almost insultingly simple, but the physiological reasoning is solid. After 7 to 9 hours without fluid, your blood is thicker and more concentrated than at almost any other time of day. That viscosity we talked about, the increased clotting risk, is partly a function of dehydration. Drinking a full glass of water first thing in the morning helps thin the blood, supports healthy circulation, reduces the burden on your heart as it works to pump blood through your system, and helps your body complete the transition out of that overnight concentrated state. It costs nothing. It takes 30 seconds. And the cumulative impact on cardiovascular health over years is genuinely meaningful. I also want to address the snooze button because I know this one's going to feel personal for a lot of people, and I say this with complete compassion. The habit of setting multiple alarms and hitting snooze repeatedly is quietly one of the more stressful things you can do to your cardiovascular system each morning. Every time that alarm fires, your cortisol and adrenaline spike in response to the sudden sound and the jolt out of whatever sleep stage you were in. Then they settle slightly. Then the alarm fires again, and they spike again. And again. You are, in effect, forcing your heart and your nervous system to experience that intense morning cardiovascular surge 2, 3, 4 times in a row within the space of 30 minutes. For a healthy heart, this is a strain. For a heart with any degree of underlying vulnerability, and the majority of people over 40 have some level of arterial change they are completely unaware of, this repeated spiking pattern creates real and measurable risk. A single alarm, placed across the room so that getting up is the only option, is one of the most protective changes to your morning routine that you can make. And one more thing I want to raise, because it comes up constantly in my clinical conversations, and that is the role of temperature in morning cardiovascular risk. When you step from a warm bed into a cold environment, a cold room, a cold shower, cold outdoor air, your blood vessels respond immediately by constricting. This is a reflex. It happens automatically and rapidly, and it drives blood pressure higher. On its own, this is manageable for most people. But layered on top of a natural morning cardiovascular surge, for someone with any degree of arterial compromise, that sudden cold exposure could be a genuine risk factor. I'm not saying avoid cold entirely. Deliberate cold exposure, done with proper preparation and context, has documented benefits. But timing and transition matter. If you want a cold shower in the morning, let your body regulate for 15 to 20 minutes first. Let your heart rate settle. Let your blood pressure normalize from its morning peak. Then introduce the cold. That sequence makes all the difference. Here's the thing that keeps me passionate about sharing this information. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in the world, not because we lack the knowledge to prevent it, but because the knowledge doesn't always reach people in time. Patients come to me after an event, and they say the same thing in so many different ways. They had no idea. They felt fine. They thought they were healthy. And they were, in many cases, doing everything they'd ever been told to do. They just didn't know about this window. They didn't know that their morning routine was silently, consistently, incrementally adding to their cardiovascular burden every single day. The morning window is real. The risk is real. And the opportunity to do something about it is completely in your hands, starting tomorrow, without any equipment, without any medication, without any cost. Just a few small, intentional choices made in those first quiet minutes before the world comes rushing in. Breathe before you scroll. Drink water before you drink coffee. Wake once instead of 5 times. Give your heart the 2 minutes it needs to find its footing before you ask anything of it. These are not wellness cliches. These are evidence-supported, physiologically grounded habits that I recommend to my patients because I have watched them make a difference in lab values, in blood pressure readings, in long-term outcomes, and in how people feel living inside their own bodies every single day. Your heart beats roughly 100,000 times every day without asking for anything in return. The least we can do is give it a calm and gentle start to the morning. Share this with someone you care about. It may be the most important 30 seconds of information they hear this year.